Hello guys, welcome to another tutorial on how to install OpenVPN virtual appliance on VMware ESXI, VMware um, Workstation or VMware Fusion. For this tutorial, we're going to be focusing on ESXI, but the steps should be the same. Once we go ahead and install the virtual machine, there's going to be other videos on how we can configure some of its settings, including importing users from LDAP, user permissions, and selecting how the clients are being imported into your local network. So for today, we're just going to have to do a basic installation. The first thing you want to do is click on the link below, or you can go to openvpn.net. You go to Business VPN and you select Virtual Appliance. Once you do that, it's going to load up the page, and we want to make sure we are selecting the VMware ESXi. I'll also make future videos about how to do this on Hyper-V, but our focus as of now is ESXi. So once you click select, it's going to take you to another page of which you will click the link, and then you will download the OVA file. At this point, we can go ahead and go to our ESXi. We'll go to create virtual machines, and we'll click on creating or registering new VM. We'll select from an OVA or OVF file. You're going to give it a name, so you can call it OpenVPN, and we'll click to import the file. At this point, you select the file you downloaded. In my lab, I have three um, data stores. If you have just one or however number of data stores you have, you go ahead and select the one you want the VM to be installed on. You go next. And then at this point, you select your network interface or network switch you want your VPN to be connected to. And once you do that, you just need to go next, and then you click finish. Of which once you click finish, you're gonna have to give it a couple of minutes for VMware ESXi to import the necessary files. At this point, I'm going to pause the video and I'll be back once that importation is done. So once it is done importing the virtual machine, you're gonna want to go click on virtual machines and then you select Open VPN. Um, if this is the first time you're doing this, your ESXi should automatically power on this virtual machine once it's done installing. I did power mine off because I wanted us to follow through the tutorial. So I'll power it on. You can do the same if yours did not power on for whatever reason. And once you do that, we're just gonna have to follow through the installation steps. So you go ahead and select enter. Once it is done importing the image, your OpenVPN server should power right up to the login page. And once it gets to the login page, we want to log in. So the default credentials to log into your OpenVPN Access Server for the first time is root. So we'll go ahead and type root, and the password is OpenVPN AS, as you can see on the host name. The host name shows OpenVPN AS2, and so the password is just OpenVPN AS. And I have that also included down at the description of this video. So once you enter the password, we're gonna have to go through some steps. First is to answer yes to the terms and conditions. Once we do that, it's going to ask us if we want to use this as the our primary access server node. Since it's our first install, we're going to select yes. If you had already installed one before and you want to install another one for to create like a VPN cluster, you will select no for configuring it as a backup. But since this is the primary, we're going to go with yes. At this point, it wants us to select which interface we want to use. Remember when we did the configuration of the OVA file, we assigned just one interface. So we're going to go with all, or you can be specific and select two. And also notice that my OpenVPN Access Server was given a DHCP IP address. So in the subsequent or future videos where I'll show you how to configure this server and secure it because it's going to be exposed to the internet, um, I will also show you how to assign this a static IP address so you don't have conflicting IP addresses, or you don't have issues trying to access your VPN server in the future because your DHCP assigned or changed the IP address. So we're just going to go select option 1. Now, do you want to specify a port number for the admin UI? Going to press and enter to use the default. You want to specify a TCP port number for the OpenVPN daemon. Same thing, we'll use the default. Should the client traffic be routed through the VPN? Yes, we want that. Do you want the client to use the DNS traffic of clients to be routed through the VPN as well? Yes. I'll also tell you that after the installation, when we get into configuring the UI, everything we're doing now can be changed. So this is not permanent. You don't have to worry about it. You can always change this in the future on the UI. So we're going to select yes to use the local authentication. Do you want private subnets to be accessible to clients by default? Yes. Do you wish to log in the admin UI as OpenVPN? Yes, because that's the root account we use to log into the CLI is the root user only for the command line interface. For the UI, the default administrative user is OpenVPN. This user is recommended to be deleted after you fully set up your server for security purposes. But for now, we're just going to leave it as OpenVPN for the installation to complete. And like I said, in future videos, we're going to walk through the steps to correct that. For licenses, you have 2 users free. So you can use 2 free users at the same time. You cannot if you're using the free version, more than 2 users cannot be logged on or logging into your VPN at the same time. So you can only have 2 users using the VPN at once. If you wanted to have more than 2 users because you want to use this for your small business or for more people, you're gonna have to pay for a license. So we're just gonna go with the free 2 users. So at this point, OpenVPN Access Server is going to run server scripts and install the web server, configure the certificates and all the other good stuff. And once it gets finished, like we see here, we can go ahead and access our UI by HTTPS, the IP address, tag 943 I. At this point, we're going to go on the browser and we'll type HTTPS. We'll do the IP address and we'll do 943/admin. Then it's going to say your connection is not private because we're using a self-signed certificate. So we'll proceed. And at this point, we can see that it brings us to the web page to log into our server. If you can notice, when we created the Open VPN user for the admin UI, we didn't give it a password, and OpenVPN does not give that user a default password. We have to go to the command line and create that password for the user. So we're going to go back to our VMware ESXI to the command line, and you want to type the command password, so PASSWD OpenVPN. And this command basically changes the password or creates a password for OpenVPN. So you're going to go and type password for that user. Perfect. For security purposes, since the root user account also has um, default password, you can go ahead and change that too. So you just, for the root, since we're already signed in as root, we're just going to do password and we're going to enter a new password for that as well. Okay, once that's all done, we'll go back to our access server and we'll log in as OpenVPN with the password we just created. And there we go, it lets us in. But this is not where we want to be because this is the page where users will see and they will log in to download their profiles or the OpenVPN client that's recommended for their system. So as you can see here, it detected that the recommended client for my device is for Windows because I'm using a Windows device. So since I'm an administrator, I can go in here and go direct to the administrator tab. As you can see, 943 admin. So we'll go to OpenVPN. It's annoying. We have to log in again, but that's okay. We want to make sure it's safe. And once you enter your password, it brings one more terms and conditions that we have to accept. At this point, our OpenVPN Access Server installation is complete. Since we're using a free license, it hits us with a warning that we can only have 2 VPN connections allowed at the time, which is fine if you're using this at home or for your lab because you just want to be able to access your internal resources while you're on the internet. That's great. If you're using this for small business and you need access for more than 2 users, you can go ahead and click the activation key tab and it takes you to your website, and then um, you can go ahead and create an account and see what you can get. That's the deal. So this brings us to an end of the first part of this tutorial. More videos will be coming up on how to create um, the network settings or to configure the network settings, to do VPN settings where we can go in and change the subnets for users and DNS settings. We'll also talk about the web server if you wanted to install trusted certificates. We'll also go ahead and talk about user permissions and group permissions, and revoking certificates and authentication. As you can see here, with OpenVPN, you can use regular authentication, which is local, where you have to go in and manually create users. If you had LDAP, um, or an LDAP server or Active Directory environment, you can go ahead and connect this to an Active Directory environment. So specific users are pulled in from Active Directory, like with a specific group or OU that's only users for VPN. That way you don't have to go in and log in all the time in an OpenVPN Access Server to create users. The users just get pulled from Active Directory once they're added to the group. You can also use radius authentication. We also have the option of using two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. This is the thing I like about the OpenVPN Access Server, unlike the one that you have on like the some of the routers, like for pfSense firewall, for example. It has a built-in OpenVPN server um, installed on there where you can go ahead and do the same configuration on your firewall. The good thing about this one is it's easier for you to configure two-factor authentication because if you're exposing this server onto the internet, you want to make sure it's secure. So if your users are using weak passwords, you know there's a second layer of security. So even if someone has a user's password, they're still going to need that code from a Google Authenticator app or something else. Note it says Google Authenticator app, but I've tested these and it works on basically any authenticator app. So I personally I use Duo, so you can use any. It's at your choice, and it's pretty easy to configure and just push in a yes. So unlike on PFSense, you have to log into the command line and do some dirty commands and all that stuff. With this, it's very easy. Just like I said on upcoming videos, we're going to do the different. I'm going to show you how to configure these different settings in this OpenVPN Access Server. So for today, those that is the basic um, steps to go ahead and install your OpenVPN Access Server. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel to be updated on all my new upcoming videos. You can also send me an email or comment on the comment section and let me know what you may like me to do in the future. Maybe if you have